In this video, we are going to spend some time understanding what's actually being tested on the ACT, how you can look at the question in multiple different ways, sometimes in ways that you've never thought about, because we're going to be flexible in the way that we approach things and start seeing it from a different perspective. One of the fallacies that students fall for about the ACT is the fact that the ACT is testing what we're learning in school right this minute. It's a college entrance exam after all. So shouldn't it be testing exactly what we're doing in school? It isn't. Foreshadowing, right? You knew that was coming because you've taken the test maybe, and you know that it's something very different. But the English is a good example of this, and I love that it's the first section because it starts outlining and helps us see that it is quite different. Not only from the structure, not from the perspective of the psychologist instead of your English teacher, but even the content. Because what's actually being tested? They're testing the basics. They're testing things like grammar, punctuation, rhetoric, things that we learned like, I don't know, fourth grade, right? This is a fourth grade test to get you into college. So how can we approach this in a way that makes more sense for what's actually being tested? Well, first and foremost, there is an idea that I think is actually really, really important. Sometimes our teachers teach us their preference more than what's actually generally accepted, right? This has happened to me. I have to be honest, this was many years ago, but I was going through an English section and I missed a question. I was like, what in the world? How did I miss that question? And it was the difference between lay and lie, right? Now, what my teachers taught me back in the day was just subtly different than what's actually accepted, right? For me, I learned that lay is for inanimate objects and lying is for like living things, right? So there's a subtle difference. Do you know what it is? Yeah, if something is laying, it is placed there by someone else, right? Which is generally true. Like if it's inanimate, it didn't go there by itself generally. On the other side, if something is lying, it placed itself there. So this particular question on the ACT English section actually asked about a log that had fallen and was lying in the woods because it had put itself there. It had fallen on its own, which again, a log is an inanimate object. It's no longer alive, but it is lying because it did it to itself, right? So it's just little nuances. Or this is a common one I see over and over again. How many things do you have to have in a list for you to use a colon for the list? I'll give you a second. Think about it. I hear the same answer from almost all students. And it doesn't matter whether they go to public school, private school, they're in the city, they're in a rural district, they're in the suburbs. Almost every student has learned that you have to have 3 or more things for you to have a list with a colon. That's just not true. Imagine, like if I had a really bad memory, my wife said, hey, could you go to the grocery store and get everything on the list? And she wrote out the list for me because I can be forgetful sometimes. And all it says is milk. Well, that's still a grocery list, right? It's just a very, very short one that in theory I should be able to remember, but it is still a list. So oftentimes students will go through the English questions, they'll see one with a colon and there's just one thing and they immediately mark it off. But that could be the correct answer because you can have a list of one thing. Okay. And then they're going to test things like semicolons, things that like students rarely use in their own writing. So we want to go back and review, find some good tendencies, some rules, make this section so much easier than what we've been making it. Okay. It really is my favorite section. I really think it's the easiest to improve if we know what the test makers are looking for. Don't think that what we've been doing in school is going to pay off exactly. Now, again, if you do a lot of reading, maybe you're in the right direction. But sometimes even authors take some liberties in their own writing that isn't actually fitting conventional writing systems. Okay. So I want you to start zeroing in and understanding what the test makers are looking for rather than what your teachers have told you in the past. I actually think this is a really good, important skill in life, right? Maybe you have maybe you're in college and you write an amazing paper. It's the best paper you've ever written in your life, and you submit it to 2 different professors. Don't do that, because that's not right. But let's say the 2 different professors were to grade it, and one gave you an A because it was so amazing, but the other one gave you a C. Well, it's the same quality work and it's amazing. Well, they were looking for different things. Just like maybe you have a part-time job, or later on in life you're going to have a career. You may have one boss that wants you to do something one way, and you have another boss that wants you to do it almost a totally different way. This is an important lesson to learn along the way. Even though this is the ACT and it's not chock full of life lessons, I think this is one that we can really, really take away, is how to be flexible, how to understand expectations, and how we can adjust accordingly.